race to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time, stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to the Crazy Life, everybody. I am very, 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 very excited to say that this show into the new year, we are doing something a little bit different. And if I didn't use enough varies, I apologize. I can add like a gazillion more in there. But not only do we have, of course, myself, I'm Jen, and we have, as always, my partner in crime, Bryan. Hey, Bryan.
Howdy.
We also have Henno. Hey, Henno.
Hello.
2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, I'm on a roll.
And hopefully, if he agrees to join us, which I have a feeling he may, we'd like to have him as our permanent third mic going forward. You cool with this, Henno?
I love the idea.
But no. Yeah.
Brilliant idea.
Yeah. Brilliant. Nope.
So, folks, not only do you get me and Bryan every week going forward, you're going to also have Henno joining us. Some days it may just be 2. Some days it may be 3. Hopefully it's never just 1. But we are always going to be here every week for you and your listening pleasure. That being said, let's break into how our week's been. Bryan, how was your new year?
I always hate when people ask me this stuff because I find myself always going negative because I had a gout flare-up the day before New Year's Eve. So,
that sucks.
Yeah, I had a doctor's appointment, so I couldn't go with Tony to his cabin. And then I had a gout flare-up, so I couldn't really walk. And I had other friends invite me over New Year's Eve, but I couldn't really go because I couldn't walk. So it was pretty non-eventful.
Did you toast yourself at least?
I think I had a couple of beers, which you can determine as sad or whatever.
You know, for some people, that may be a perfect New Year's Eve. Don't have to worry about crowds, don't have to worry about drunk people. Just chill and relax and enjoy.
Yeah.
So there's something to be said for that.
Yeah, it was pretty relaxing because I didn't have to worry about any social anything. But, you know.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. How about you, Henno? How was your New Year's?
It was actually pretty cool. Since it was on Thursday night, my weekly men's group meeting was going to happen, and I figured, you know what the hell, I'll go up there and check it out. You know, I'll see if anyone's there because I had signed up to be there for Christmas Eve, and I don't know, 4 guys showed up, and we had a great conversation about I guess I should qualify myself. So I'm a recovered alcoholic and compulsive debtor and recovering codependent. So grateful 12-step member. That's my background. So I was so I went to this meeting, and once again, there was I walked in, there was maybe 3, but still, it's how amazing is that? Here's on New Year's Eve, a bunch of guys drive and, come and get together, and we talked about, instead of being drunk,
right.
Being sober. How weird is that? Why are we doing this?
We are choosing to be sober on New Year's Eve. That's awesome.
Yeah, and we ended up sharing a couple of readings and just talking about what was in the readings, and it was kind of fun. And then on the way back, there was a party being put on by a bunch of addicts.
Nice.
So I went by that party because I brought my disco lights to it. They had a DJ. Yeah, I'm like the the resident disco light guy. So I went by there and hung out, and it was actually really fun. There were a lot of people there. They'd had a couple of speakers that I some good friends of mine, and just hung out, enjoyed some music and people, and and then just basically went home and got back to work on music. So it was cool.
That's awesome.
Nice. Yeah.
What'd you do?
I was in New Orleans.
Oh, that's right.
Yes, I went to visit the lovely lady Nola. And New Orleans did me very well this year. I went last year as well. Last year, me and Nola had a fight. I ended up with a bruised chin and some black and blue knees.
Ooh.
So, yes, but I kind of was wearing the wrong shoes on brick pavement. So, yeah, didn't work out well in my favor at all. But I had a great time regardless. But this year, it was really wonderful. It was a little bit of a different type of a trip for us. My best friend and I went. And as we were coming in the taxi cab, we drove past this beautiful theater. And on the marquee out front, it said Beauty and the Beast playing. The musical was playing there this weekend. And my best friend turns and looks at me, and she's like, "That is my all-time favorite Disney movie. Bella's my princess." And I started laughing, and I'm like, "Really?" I said, "You want to go?" She's like, "Can we?" And her eyes got real big. And keep in mind, this is a woman that, in her late 20s. And I'm like, "Yeah, we can." So I went online, and we got tickets for New Year's Day to go see New Year's Day night to go see the musical. And we already had tickets to go to a party on New Year's Eve, which was fun. And we got to visit Bourbon Street, which is always great for the ego. Because, ladies, let me tell you, if you don't want to get hit on, that's not the place to be. Because if you have boobs and walk down in fact, I wouldn't even say that. If you are an attractive person, unattractive person, it doesn't matter. Everyone gets hit on Bourbon Street. You feel like you're the most attractive person in the world because every person you walk by is like, "Hey, I know you." No, you don't. It's like, "Oh, hey, yeah, you're looking good." I'm like, "Thank you." You just keep on walking.
Nice for the self-esteem.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's awesome. It's like walking down a self-esteem boulevard. Just like, thank you. I appreciate it. Glad I'm looking good tonight. Yes, they are real. You know, the basics. But so it was a lot of fun, and I will say, kind of a interesting moment for me this weekend, or the weekend of New Year's, when we were at the party, because I'm in my late 30s. I'm 37, and when I was at this party, dressed up to the nines, in my best, and looking around at people in their best. And all I could think of is, I really want to be home in my PJs. I don't want to listen to this. Like, I went to the one room and there was a DJ playing, and he was playing like modern techno stuff. That's not my music. I went into the other one, and everybody was just more worried about what everybody else is wearing. They weren't really dancing. The music was okay, but it wasn't the best. It was just one of those moments that you're just kind of like, I'm done with this. I'm kind of over this part of my life.
It just wasn't your crowd, though. I mean, maybe if you walked into another one and they were playing like hair metal or something, you would have been,
True.
Or just terrible like 80s and 90s music, you would have been right at home.
Oh, this is absolutely true. If they were playing 80s or 90s, you're right. I would probably be on the dance floor, regardless, having a great time.
Or if it was line dancing of some sort.
Yeah. I am a sucker for line dancing. It's the whole cattle mentality, I guess. I don't know.
White people like to do things at the same time as other white people in long lines. I don't know why, but...
Yeah, we're lemmings.
Yeah.
I don't get it. But then...
with the one as a downbeat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, then we ended up... so we found ourselves a seat off to the side, and we then turned into fashion police. And so the entire rest of the evening we
Nice.
sat there being absolutely degenerate people, judgmental, like, oh, honey, no,
New year, hopefully new dress, right, girl?
We're just like, there's some girls that were, at one point, Lauren turned and looked at me. She's like, okay, seriously? That woman doesn't even have to bend over to be raped. And
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, whoa. I mean, it was just, we were getting really, 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 really bad between the two of us. Thankfully, it was quiet and was between the two of us, and, nobody else heard us.
Or at least you think it was.
Yeah. Well, I think that some of the stuff we said, if it would have been loud enough for others to hear, somebody might have called us out on it. But
yeah, probably.
So then, of course, followed by some guilt the next day. Because I'm like, that was really crummy, even if it was just between me and her.
Mm-hmm.
And it was funny, but it was pretty crummy. So, note to self, don't be that person. I didn't want to be that person, so I'll try not to be that person again. But anyways, those are my highs and my lows.
Yeah, so next year you got to see if there's, like, bands that fit your wheelhouse more, if you're going like a party where it's more like 80s 90s stuff.
And that's what I'm thinking, and I'm not sure because next year's a big year for me, or this year is a big year for me financially as well as
true.
So I've got lots of big things happening, so I don't think I'm actually going to be able to do a New Year's trip this year. So this might be my first New Year's I'm actually spending home with the man I'm going to marry, because at that next, I guess it would be my husband at that point.
Right.
But we've never spent a New Year's together. So I'm like, I'm like, that may be interesting. Just be our first New Year's together. So, yes, we've always been other places. I shouldn't say that because I said that kind of awkward, didn't I? We've been together, like we've just not been, like we've been in a relationship together, but we've always been other places.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Shouldn't that be a qualification before you get married, is survive a New Year's Day hangover together?
Well, I did get sick all over his truck, so I think I passed the...
Okay, you passed that. Yeah.
I think I passed that, yeah. And I didn't quite make it outside the truck, and the window well, and yeah, not pretty. Not pretty at all. Another one of Jen's highlight moments. But anyways. So guys, before we get into the meat of the show today, I did want to touch base with you, and I want us to really do this every week. I think we've gotten away from it, but I really want us to start claiming our wins. So Bryan, what was your win for this week?
Boy, I don't know.
You want to think on it and give head on?
Yeah, do that.
Mine would be, so when I have a tendency, when I am on a roll, when I'm finally feeling good and I'm feeling like I can accomplish anything, I have a tendency to overdo it and then, burn out. And my win for this week was, it wasn't last night, it was the night before. I came home and I realized I really didn't need to do anything tonight. I wanted to, because I've got that compulsion, oh, you can't, but I said, no, I'm taking a night off. I'm not even going to think about this. I just turned the television on and I vegged and I went to bed early. And it was so good because the next, so last night when I got home, I was ready to work, and I didn't feel burnt out by it, which is usually my MO, is to just overdo it. You start feeling better, take it too far. And so that was my win for the week, was to really recognize that, no, I still need to have my decompression time, even when I'm on a roll.
Yep.
Nice.
That makes sense, because that, that keeps you in that balance. Rather than, throwing yourself too far the other way, then you've got to try to reset, and you're spending...
Back in the roller coaster.
Yep, so yeah, certainly.
Exactly. No, that's really, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on one second. Bryan, why don't you start talking about yours?
I actually think mine is in a similar vein, in that last night I wasn't feeling real well, and it's weird because of how much time I spend in bed because of depression. I tend to put pressure on myself if I go to bed early. Like, no, you should be up for, like you just got up 4 hours ago. You can't go to bed already, kind of a thing. But last night I wasn't feeling real well, and I was just like, screw it. I'm not going to put that pressure on myself. I'm not going to, I need whatever it is, whether it's rest or my back, my kidneys were bothering me and it hurt to sit. So why put yourself through, pain? I just laid in bed and I ended up falling asleep early, and, and I slept a lot of today because, I haven't felt real well. And it's like, I think in the past I'd always really, really beat myself up the next day. Like, oh, you wasted a day. How could you do that? Kind of a thing. And I woke up today, and honestly, I was another one of those where I'm like, man, after we're done with this, I might just go back to bed because I'm still feeling pretty weak. So,
reboot the day.
Yeah, it's just I listened to my body without.
There you have it.
The guilt. Yeah.
That's wonderful, because that's tough to do.
Mm-hmm.
That is really, really, really tough to do. And
yeah.
I think we all find ourselves in that position more than once in our lives that, if we would just take those moments to just take a step back and allow ourselves to just listen to what we actually truly need versus trying to force feed or force ourselves to do what is expected by ourselves or by someone else.
Yeah.
I think it really could make a big impact and relieve a lot of stress that we have on ourselves.
Definitely. Yeah.
Excuse me. I'm sorry, folks. I do have a bit of a cold, so if I cough or anything, I apologize. I don't mean to blow up your speakers or your headphones. But I guess my win of the week is, I guess it comes from when I was in New Orleans. Lauren turned to me at one point. It's like, my goodness, you are just being really, really nice this weekend. And I hadn't even thought about it. I hadn't even been working on trying to be nice to people or anything. And it's not like I'm mean other times, I'm a fairly nice person to begin with, so it wasn't all that out of my character. But I think it was just I had made a point in my head that I was in such a good mood that I wanted to share it with everyone. So I was, talking to people on the streets, and I was just, someone was coming up, I'd hold the door open for them, and I would just let people go in front of me or whatever. I was just in a great mood. I just didn't care. I wanted everyone to be happy like I was happy. And I guess it really, really showed, and in a good way. So I think that was really cool. And then it was so natural to me. I was like my big win. I'm like, oh, that's who I want to be. And it was so natural. It just kind of came out of me. If I could embrace that more often, and if I could emulate that more often, that's how I want to live my life.
Yeah.
And so it was just one of those cool moments that you just have. You're like, I was really cool without trying. I'm good for me.
Well,
not truly being in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that. Yeah. As well as it's awesome that you had that without it being part of a manic episode.
Absolutely.
Because I know, at times when you've gone into that kind of mindset where you're over the top happy and trying to share it with others, that you're in the middle of a manic episode, and that's the thing is that, some people don't realize that can be a manic episode, and that's
true.
So it's good that you can just have those moments and, like Heno said, recognize that you were in the middle of that moment. And yeah, that's great. Yeah.
It's like actually being part of your environment and interacting with it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And having those, to me, that's like you said, that's how I want to be all the time. Where when I'm walking through a door, in the grocery store or whatever, that my head isn't somewhere else thinking about some problem that's probably really not that big of a problem, I miss the fact that I had an opportunity to open the door for somebody or even just say hello or anything like that, and when I do that, I feel good. It's like I'm actually paying attention to my surroundings and where I'm at, and I do want to live my life that way.
Yeah. I always try to do that, when you go into the stores, and whether it's them saying, hi as you walk in, or as you're leaving and they'll say, have a great day or something like that. I always try to respond. And even though most of the time it's basically just making niceties, but I still do it because I've been on that side of it as a retail person. Like one of the video stores I worked at, every time the door opened, you had to say hello. And and it's amazing how many times people just look at you and just walk. Like they don't even go, oh, hi, like nothing. They just look at you like, what are you doing? And then they just
insulted me with your happiness and niceness and your niceties.
Yeah. So, or an employee comes up to you in a store and, anything I can help you with? No, we're just looking. Thanks, though. I always try to do that, even though you're just like, sometimes they just come out of nowhere on you. But, it's just one of those things that it helps make the job a little bit better when people actually respond back to you,
They actually interact with you?
Yeah. Well, even though I have to say hello to you as a customer because it's my job. I have to. If I don't, I'll get written up, But when someone says it back, you're just, it's just a nice, a nice exchange. It doesn't have to be any more than that, Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's something. That's a little change if you don't do that. That's a little change you can make. And it can make a big deal. Like I said, it can really just kind of help somebody's day because, a lot of people seriously look at you terribly when you say hi.
Yeah.
I mean, you never know. It's amazing how sometimes you just never know. You might say something. You just might make eye contact with somebody else, and they just needed it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yep. And when you get some feedback, and they actually say thank you or whatever it is, and it's genuine, it's like that feels good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Rather than some canned stuff. But even that stuff can feel good, if, like I said, I remember one day we decided to count how many people said hello back to us. Huh. And of the first 25 people that came in the store, 3 said hello back.
Wow.
And I'm like, wow. I was like, am I being, because then I'm starting to question how I'm saying hello. Am I being confrontational? And they're like, I'm put off by it? Or is it, So then we had someone else do it who was more friendly, and she did it for 25 more people. And the number was only like 5. So it was only slightly better. I was like, well, okay, I feel a little better now.
So you were being sarcastic.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to. It was,
Yeah.
But you can, when you have to say it to every person. Eventually, if you go into some places like that, you'll start hearing the hello, and you can tell that, I always tried not to do that. I always tried to make it seem genuine,
Or then you get like the Office Space. Thank you for calling Intertech. So,
Yeah.
you can get that that sing-songy, fake, over the top. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I've done that before. It's
me too.
Even talking with people and stuff, face to face, I'll have to fight against it because sometimes I get too chipper, shall we say? So
yeah, that works.
So it can come across very wrong if you're not careful.
Right. Yeah. In the wrong context, being chipper can come across as condescending. So,
yes.
Yeah,
I've been called condescending a few times.
Even if you're not trying to be, you could be totally genuine. Everything's from the heart, but it's just the context makes it seem like it's like saying "good for you" to somebody.
Yeah.
It's one of those phrases you can't say "good for you" and have it not sound condescending or patronizing. Like it's. My dad used to say it all the time.
You?
Yeah. My dad used to say it all the time. I'd be like, blah, blah, this happened, and he'd be like, good for you. And he's meaning it genuinely. Like, bully for you, great. That's awesome, But it's just, no matter how you say it, it comes across badly. So it's one of those phrases I always try not to say. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Jen spreading the love in New Orleans.
I was spreading the love. And like Bryan said, though, the coolest part is because I have had moments of mania in my life, and mania is almost scary happy, and this was just kind of like that chill happy. That I
when you have.
Yep, go ahead.
When you have the mania, does it feel like an out of body experience?
Very much so. pretty much, I've never taken speed, but I could almost imagine that might be what it feels like. Where it's like everything's extra bright, everything's extra shiny, everybody's extra happy, everything's extra, everything is amped.
Yeah, everything's unfiltered. Yeah,
Yes.
you can definitely, like, having been around her while she's through that, it's like the level of happiness, and like she has a tendency to talk really fast as she gets excited. It goes another level when she's in those moments, and you're just like, whoa.
I actually would get that from alcohol. I would get an endorphin release, and I totally relate to what you're describing. It was like this just pure endorphins, and it's like nothing can go wrong. But I really had no control.
Yeah,
like I was literally high. I mean, that's all I could describe it. I was high, and so I'm high on everything.
Right? Yeah,
yeah,
everything's amazing right now. Yeah,
but
that's I've said high on everything more than once. Yeah, I completely get you.
Yeah, I've actually experienced what you were saying with the alcohol too, because I find that a lot of times when I was thinking back and thinking about being happy, so much of it tied to good amounts of drinking. And, well, not good, I guess, because it certainly wasn't actually healthy amounts of drinking. But I would do the same thing, is that I become much, much happier as I drink. And I can, sometimes you just hit like a perfect spot almost. And
that's it.
Like the world's awesome. This is awesome. Yep. And it's not the I love you, man kind of thing, but it's just nothing can be wrong right now. And, thinking back on it, that concert that I went to with Tony, we had a good amount of beers, and I was saying similar things to that about that concert, how everything was just amazing. It was in the moment, and it was because all the stuff got shut off by the alcohol. I
was just going to say that. I'm like, do you think maybe we've kind of stumbled upon something there?
Well, no, I kind of thought that night and such, because I knew how much I had drank. So, yeah.
But it's like, it's almost like we drown those voices in our head that prevent us from from taking those extra steps, from really embracing things around us in a healthy way, because I was by far not in a healthy way at those points, and you could tell, as much fun as I was to be around, you could tell I was always kind of on the edge of danger. It was just like, I was just that one suggestion away from doing something really bad, or just, something going really badly very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and that's the danger. I mean, I had to drink a lot to get to that point, and it was such a wonderful feeling that it was like chasing the dragon. It was like I wanted to get there.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lot of drinking then, and that's why it's dangerous to have that as a solution.
Yes.
For whatever, if you're just trying to shut the voices off, for like we were talking about last week about analysis paralysis. If you're always chasing that moment, and there were nights where I didn't get it. Mm-hmm. I'm drinking like a fish, and I'm like going, "Where's my high?"
Yep.
Well, and then I wake up with a hangover, and it's like, oh, that's not a good way to start the next day.
Yeah.
But that's where people can get into trouble, is if when you're getting that point, and it does. The risk is bad, because now you're drinking to a level where you are losing control of your body.
Yeah.
You're losing control of the filter.
Yes.
Which actually kind of ties into our topic.
Right.
Exactly.
But
that's going right down that path, which is awesome.
It really is.
That's what I was doing. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jen.
That's right. I was going to say, I think I've mentioned this on here before, but when I talked to my psychiatrist, when he diagnosed me as being bipolar, and with bipolar with spells of mania, and we were talking about the mania, and I'm like, dude, I feel it's like the best I've ever felt in my entire life. It's like these moments when I'm manic, everything's freaking amazing. I said, can't we do something to make that happen? And he's like, all right. He's like, when you're in that moment, it's almost like an adrenaline junkie. You have no filter. You have no safety net, no protection whatsoever. You are so open and vulnerable to any suggestion that you'll find yourself making bad decisions. He's like, I am shocked that you have not made a really bad decision up to this point. Sounds like you've only made some really minor steps. He's like, you are just asking for to blow up your life.
Yeah,
if you're not careful.
Yeah, some doubt and some filter is always a good thing.
Yes.
That was what I found out when I was drinking really heavily, was because I was doing the same thing Henno said, which was drinking to chase the dragon, trying to get to that happy place, basically. And when I was doing that, I found that most nights you don't find that, but you still chase it again the next day. And, you know, your filter drops, you start, you know, like you said, you're not controlling yourself. You're not you at that point. You're becoming something completely different. So I can understand it only from that point, because unfortunately my mental illness doesn't allow me to have the ups, you know, like I don't get those. So when I do get anything that resembles that, it's like finding the holy grail to me, you know? Yeah. So, yeah.
So our topic, because since we've kind of already made ourselves to it, is I wanted us to talk about making amends. I think amends is a very interesting word. And I think it means a lot of different things to different people. Now, it is a word that's used in the 12-step program. Is that correct, Henno?
Oh, yeah. It's one of the steps.
Yeah.
I'm almost positive, but since I have someone who's done the program, I wanted to make sure that I was speaking correctly here. But I think that's a good place to start. Can you tell us a little bit about what that step is in the 12-step program?
So it's actually a combination of two. It starts with becoming willing to make amends wherever possible, but as long as it won't injure you or others. And then the second part of the second step of it is made direct amends wherever possible. Oh, that's it. Made direct amends wherever possible, unless it would injure you or others. But the first one is became willing to make amends, and that's a crucial part of this.
Yeah.
You know,
oh yeah, absolutely.
Because most people look at the word amends. They think of making amends as saying I'm sorry.
Right.
You know, and I get that. That's part of it. You know, that's part of what we're trying to do when we're making amends, is we're trying to express our regret. But, you know, as I was taught, the word amend means change.
Yeah.
Ah.
Well, it does. Think about the Constitution, and amendments to the Constitution means a change to the Constitution. Yep.
Yeah, and so and the hard part is, you know, most of us we're willing to make amends because we feel humiliated.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like it's an act of desperation.
It's almost like apologizing because you got caught, kind of a situation.
In a way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's why
I'm sorry, you're not doing the amends for them, you're doing the amends for yourself.
And that's actually an interesting way that you say that, because ultimately if you do it right, you are doing it for yourself.
Mm-hmm. You're doing it both, yeah.
But there's more to it, and that's why I am an admirer of the 12-step programs, because before you get to amends, you know, which is 8 and 9, there are 7 other things where you learn a lot about yourself first before you get to the point where, you know, and you do that. So yeah, it's for me it was, you know, I mean, early on when this concept first came about, and it came about with other types of there were like 6-step programs. It was called the Oxford Group, and there are various other types of groups. And it wasn't just for alcoholism. It was they were like way of life programs. And one of them was to, you know, right the wrongs. It was in almost all of them. But prior to that, typically it's also to know yourself, you know, to get to know who you are, to know what you are, so you can actually, because for me, the amends process is to own my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
You know, whereas it used to be, it was just to cover my booty. You know?
Right. Yeah.
Right. I gotta say I'm sorry, because that's what's expected.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Versus like, there's a difference, and I've learned there's a real difference of owning, and the willingness part. That's why I think that's such an important component is when we become, we don't always want to, we don't want to make amends. Justified resentment is like, that's a great character,
Yeah.
I've got some justified resentments, I'll tell you. And I'll tell
Yeah.
I don't get resentments because I wasn't involved.
Right.
Anyhow, I don't want to take this too far astray.
No, you're right on the point.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly it. It's interesting because the word amends, if you go by the dictionary definition, you're right on the point. It says to change for the better, to improve. And then the other one, other than the legal document one, is to better one's conduct, to reform. And this reminds me of something that I've heard people say a few times over in different areas of my life, which is, you can't be all that sorry, you keep repeating it.
I'm really notorious for saying that to people.
Yes. Yes, he is, folks. Yes, he is.
Because it's the truth. If you're going to do it again, you can't be that sorry. That's the way I've always felt. I might be way off base, but I've seen it over and over, where someone will just keep doing it and they say, I'm sorry, because it just shuts you up now. Then they do it again, and you're like, yeah, it just doesn't mean much to me anymore because you just keep doing the same pattern. It's...
Well, I think it's important that you understand what they're apologizing for.
Yes.
Because they may not be apologizing for the action. They may be apologizing for the way that action made you feel.
Yeah, for the results.
Yes.
Good point.
Yeah, it is.
The results.
Yep.
Yes. And and it's like, I had to make this decision. I had to do this thing. I am sorry that you got hurt by it. That was never my intention. But I have to continue doing this thing. So it's one of those really hard ones, and I think parents understand it better than most, because I think they run into this a lot with kids, because kids unintentionally hurt their parents very, very often, and I think it's similar things. They're growing up, they're doing what they need to do. They don't intend to hurt somebody. They're sorry that they've hurt them, but they're not sorry that they took the chance.
Yeah.
Well,
the other thing that's interesting, like using the kid thing, is that many kids aren't taught to apologize. Like, they're not taught why they're apologizing. It's just, you hurt your brother. It's like, it's like, tell him you're sorry.
You're sorry.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Okay, now you guys go back to... And it's like, no, that doesn't quite
now
do
you're
it.
Fine.
Yeah. Again, there's a saying that you've seen, I'm sure everybody's seen on the internet somewhere. You've seen a meme of it, where it talks about, like, take a plate, throw it on the floor, now apologize to the plate. Is it all together again? It's like, because sometimes apologies, people are still hurt by them, but it's also like, I'm like, at that point, with kids and stuff, it's like, are you sorry you got caught? Are you sorry for what you did? Or, what part in that? It's like, I was kind of taught, when you say you're sorry, you were to apologize for what you're sorry for. Because that adds to it being a genuine apology,
And that's why when truly making an amends, I was instructed to end it with, and is there anything I can do for you to right the wrongs?
Yeah.
And that's the difference. That's not just saying, I'm sorry. Okay, see ya.
Yeah.
That's like saying, okay, what can I do to change? And that's like that part where you sit there and you say, well, you shouldn't, you sure don't seem sorry because you keep doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're just apologizing. I would always apologize to relieve my own personal guilt, to let that person, and all I was doing was letting the person know that I don't feel good. I don't feel good about what I did. And especially when we're talking about behavioral issues. We're talking about, when we've acted out.
Yeah.
And typically they're not one-offs.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
For the
Typically,
most part, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's because they're behavioral issues, and maybe the circumstances are different, but the situation is the same. And a lot of these things, we tend to do them to the same person over and over again. And if all we've got is, I'm sorry, after a while, they're like, and what's worse is when you sit there and, well, I promise it'll never happen again. And then it happens again. Okay, I promise, it's like,
Yeah.
all right, I can't promise it won't happen again. All right, well, are you willing to do anything to change?
Right.
And that's, to me, the true willingness to make an amends.
And that's essentially what I'm getting at when I say that what I do about people, you're not really sorry if you're going to do it again. That's kind of more of where I'm getting at, is like, I want to see that you've changed. And I think that's kind of the part of the 12-step, is to show people that you've changed. That you're not alcohol, was a big reason why I behaved a certain way or whatever, and I've, now I'm on a different path, that kind of a thing.
Yeah, or just, the one thing that's great about, 12 steps is after that step, you get to, more spiritual ideas, but before you do, it's taking a daily inventory, and that's every day, when you wake up in the morning, and this comes right out of Buddhism, is to, make a commitment for yourself for that day. What's your day going to be like? You upon awakening. And then on the same hand, upon retiring at the end of the night, you reflect on your day. Was I selfish? Was I self-centered? Did I act in a way that could have been harmful to other people? Did I put my own interests in front of others? All that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And the idea being is that this daily reflection that you make is a way to say, okay, I'm no longer doing that behavior anymore. I have changed. And that's the thing that for most of us in our lives, we don't change. I mean, we really don't have to.
No, humans are notoriously creatures of habit. That once we sink in, and we sink in, we hate to have our routine interrupted. So that's why, self-help in a lot of ways, that like the journey I'm going through, you're going through, Jen's going through, like trying to change things that, whether it's a chemical thing or a mental illness or, a substance abuse, whatever it is, it's a really hard thing to turn, and walk away from, go the opposite direction of those things,
But ultimately, it's like what you're, when you're facing these things, and I hear you guys talk about this all the time. A situation is typically not good for me. I'm going to use self-care and not put myself in the situation. That's making an amends, even if it's just for yourself,
right?
Or to the other people. It's like, it's like just like the thing of like you're going to a concert one night, and this happens especially for alcoholics, but it can happen for anybody that has anxiety or anything like that. If you're not feeling, and I use the term spiritually fit, but all that means is if you're not feeling one with yourself and ready to go into that environment, then you probably shouldn't go into that environment.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I'll say, honestly, like, I got to where as I was getting older, I was more of I'm going to stand more toward the back at a concert for anxiety purposes more than anything. And like the one Tony and I went to, as the show went on, we kept moving closer, and I could feel my anxiety building, even though, I was pretty well, not hammered, but I had plenty to drink, and it was, that calmed most of it. But man, if I hadn't had that, I would have never been able to get that close that night, just based on everything else I have at that time, And I honestly probably wouldn't have. I would have been like, no, let's hang back here, because, and it was cooler, like concerts, I want to be part of the crowd. I want to feel the energy from the people around me. Like, that's part of what I love about music, is that it's so many people in one place loving the same thing. If you go to an art museum, you don't pick up that kind of energy. And I love art, but you don't pick up that kind of energy. There's just something magical about music that it gives you that, So I don't want to sit in the back and miss out on that. But I also don't want to have to drink 6 or 8 beers or whatever to feel that, So that's where my journey is trying to find that middle ground or what have you.
Exactly. I think that's kind of everybody's journey, is trying to find the balance between making ourselves happy and honoring our loved ones, honoring ourselves, and just finding those balances. I know I struggle with it sometimes. I am very vocal. I'm kind of a mouthy broad, and so I I've had to make amends on a few different occasions, and especially unintended. And I do try to make sure that I lay ground rules with people. I do, when I'm becoming friends with someone, I do let them know that, I'm like, just so you know, sometimes I don't mean to say things and things will come out of my mouth. So if I offend you, please give me the opportunity to right the wrong. It's like, instead of, getting too upset, if you could just do me the honor of just letting me know so that I can have the opportunity to try to correct things, because to me, that's very important, because sometimes I don't know. But when someone brings something to me, I feel that that's my opportunity to dig inside myself and to find that amends. Now, what happens, Hanno? Have you come across this personally, or have heard stories of this, when the amends is not accepted?
Oh yeah, and that's the tough one. I mean, and
Yeah.
that's why once again, two-step idea. One, willing to make amends to start, and then the second part of it, to make them whenever possible if it's going to hurt anybody, and that's where sex
Yeah.
and things like that comes in. Where you've had some bad behavior, and you deciding to come clean ends up hurting somebody else. But there are so many cases, and I'm fortunate that none of them have happened to me.
Gotcha.
But as examples were given to me that there are people that have gone and like literally driven miles, got in a car and drove across 3 states, walked into the room to make an amends, and ended it with is there anything I can do to right the wrongs? And the other person said, no, get the bleep out of here.
Oh wow.
And
Wow.
this is the real hard part, and this is the part where I respect the 12-step way of making amends, is because it starts with becoming, the willingness is the important part. At that moment, you have done your job. You've done what you were supposed to do. You offered to right the wrongs. They didn't want to have anything about it. Now you walk away.
Right.
And that is especially important when we can't make amends. Whether we've, and this happens a lot, where especially with people who've been drinking, or it doesn't matter what it is. If we've had periods in our life where we've had bad behavior and we've come out of that, whether it was, by finally getting on the right medicine or whatever it is, and maybe we've had a loved one that has passed, and that they dealt with you in that period, and now they're no longer there.
Right.
So to be able to now to go and, whatever it is to stand at a gravesite or just in the quiet by yourself, to offer that amends and to say, I am now living this. And that is a totally inside job, because they can't hear you. At least you're not going to find out whether they can or not.
Yeah.
So you got to be okay with it for yourself. And that's why, a lot of writing and stuff comes in handy on this. And this is why people go through lists of all the people I've had resentments against and all that stuff. And that typically becomes your amends list. And you look at all these people and you go, okay, wow, these are the situations and this is my part in it. And if I ever, and I'll tell you, there's some wacky stuff, because I did all this. I did this whole thing of writing everything down. I pretty much knew who my list was. And there are 2 different types of people, at least in the 12-step program. There's those that go out immediately and just take care of the stuff. They're on a mission. I mean, I've heard of people literally getting on planes and flying all over the world to take care of these amends. And a lot of that comes from the fact that these programs were started in the 1930s, where people lived in small communities.
Yeah.
And pretty much everyone knew you were a drunk, and you couldn't walk out the front door without running into somebody.
Right, and to make your amends, you would just walk around the town, basically, whereas now people are spread out. Yeah.
Yeah, so, and then there's another school that says they will be presented to you when they'll come to you. You don't need to go to them. And when they come to you is the perfect opportunity. And that's the way I've done it, and it's amazing how I've been on the phone with somebody and all of a sudden it clicks. Oh, whoa, I owe an amends. And I bring up the topic, and the good thing with, at least as far as, various isms, whatever it is, whatever your thing is, whether you're an addict, an alcoholic, or you have other, behavioral things, is the minute that you sit there and say, well, I no longer drink, I no longer abuse this, I no longer whatever, I've gotten medicine now for, my, mental stuff. Most of the time the people say, awesome. Is there anything I can do to right the wrongs? No, just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're doing better. And that's where so much of it is to stop doing the quick apologies and really do some work on yourself first. That's what I would, that was the process.
Yeah, you should know why you're apologizing. That that's kind of what I was getting at with kids, is that blanket I'm sorry shouldn't hold, it doesn't hold a lot of water to me, because it's like, why are you sorry? And with kids, most of the time, you're sorry because you got caught. Really, that's most of the time. That's why they're sorry, because they wouldn't apologize if they got away with it most of the time. Now, don't get me wrong. Guilt will eat at some people,
Yeah.
Like if they stole something from a store, that guilt may just eat at you and eat at you and eat at you. And
I truly don't believe that most people don't get pleasure out of hurting someone else.
No.
But that's not their goal, is to hurt somebody else. Their goal is to make themselves happy.
Yeah.
And people get hurt in the process. So when they say, I'm sorry, I truly feel that people, I'm sorry you got hurt by this. Yeah. I'm not sorry I stole, but I'm really sorry that you got hurt.
Exactly, yeah.
And I think that's where that natural I'm sorry comes from. Because, we don't. As human beings, I don't think intrinsically we want to hurt.
No, I agree. And I would challenge people who are listening that, anytime you apologize to somebody, really think about it and think about why you're apologizing. Like, don't just apologize because you think it's what they want to hear. Like, if, I don't like to apologize unless I mean it. I've always hated being in situations where they're like, well, you have to apologize. And I'm like, but I'm not sorry I did it.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't want to apologize, and because there are times when you feel that way, where you feel you were wronged and someone else does, and maybe both of you are, maybe both of you need to admit, your involvement, but neither of you either can or does at the time,
Yeah, you're just not willing yet.
You're just not willing, yep.
I'll tell you that, and there's
point.
nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that, because, so here's one of the things is, oftentimes in those situations, I've spent more time praying for willingness than anything else. And I've had that happen with, I have had relationships break up in sobriety, and it was like, there was a lot of resentment. There was, where I carried resentments, or I've had things with friends where I've carried resentments. And here's the crux of the thing, which is the hardest thing to do. And to me, it is the most important, because it's a character building exercise, is to own your stuff, make your amends, and don't expect anything in return. Yeah. There's no buts. There's no but yous. You own your part in it and leave the rest for the other person. Yeah. If they want to make amends for their part in it, fine. If they don't, none of my business.
Yeah. And I think
cannot, that's hard.
I bet. And that's especially useful for relationships, I would say.
Sure.
I'm meaning more like, dating type situations. Not because a lot of times people, when they break up, there's resentment, like you were saying. And I think this is one of the ways you can kind of leave, like, I'm sorry for my part in the failure of this or whatever. But
right.
And sometimes, don't get me wrong, some relationships are cut and dried. It's all one person or mostly one person. I mean, not all one, but, like it's 99% leaning one way, like a person cheats on the other or something. And you're just like, well, all right, But most of the time, that's really not how it is. Most of the time, there's a good involvement by both parties in the breakdown. And if that's the case, then, I think this is one of the few ways you can actually resolve your part of it. Like, because,
that's it.
Yeah.
Right.
The key is if you want to live your life in the way that Jen was in Narlands and happy and I call, it's happy, joyous, and free. It's going through life like, hey, I'm good. The only way that I found to live that way is to let go of my resentments, let go of expectations of others, and just own my stuff, because I'm the master of my domain.
Yeah.
What goes on in my head is my deal and not anybody else's. It's my choice. And so I've had, and this happens at work to me all the time. I've been written up for some stuff. I may not necessarily agree with everything, but I walk in there, and when they hand me the piece of paper, and I look at it, and I go, well, it's the truth. And they give me the pen, I sign it, and I walk away. And I've had my coworkers like, what? You didn't fight? It's like, no, I signed the document, and I walked away. And guess what? I didn't get fired. I was given an opportunity to do it better next time.
Yeah.
They could have given me a pink slip, but instead what they gave me is an opportunity. Now, most people don't want to look at it that way.
No,
most people
yeah.
want to be like, screw you. You guys were messed up with this too. But guess what I got to do at that moment? Walk away clean.
Yeah.
I'm good. In my head,
Yeah.
I'm on to the next thing. I'm not letting you rent space in my head the rest of this day. I'm done. And that's where owning my part has been the greatest relief for me, is because it is the only thing I can control. I can't control other people and whether they want to do it. And, I've been around people where I find I'm the only one owning my part. Well, guess what? I've been given a lot of information about that other person, and now I can choose whether I want to be,
Yeah.
Right. Because then the ball's back in your court.
Well, something else I think you find is that when the more, I think Hannah and I talked a little about this last week, was that the more that you put yourself through these paces of trying to make yourself better or get out of situations, you start seeing in other people maybe why they behave the way they do. And I don't mean that in a judgmental way, but you kind of, maybe then you can, I don't want to say lower your expectations, but you can adjust them accordingly.
See
maybe.
them in a different light.
Yeah.
See them from another perspective. And you're right. And I think it can make a big difference. And then, I'm a firm believer that not everybody's going to be in our lives forever.
Right.
Some people are made to be, transient. They come into our lives and they leave our lives. Some relationships are made to last forever. Some relationships are made to last for a short time. And we have to also be okay with that and not try to force something that's not there. And like you've said, Heno, make amends for what you can and be okay with that.
Yeah. Well, if you don't,
it's probably tough.
Well, if you don't get that stuff out of your system too, again, we go back to the distorted thinking that we talked about on the show a few weeks ago. And basically, one of the most simple things in that, it tells you to not look backward or forward as far as, don't put all your emphasis into that, because those tend to feed into anxiety and depression kind of things. So, if you make your amends, you can just keep moving. You're no longer focusing or being eaten alive by what's behind you, and you I don't know. I wouldn't say don't worry about it, but you don't worry about it. Probably you aren't going to be consumed by it.
Yes, exactly.
That I wronged so many people or whatever.
Yeah, and that's the key. I look at it as that these are all ways that we're trying to give ourselves the best chance to get through tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay,
just today even.
Out.
Yeah.
Okay, well let's try it again tomorrow. And that's been one of the hardest things for me where there is a behavior I have, and I really want to promise that it won't happen again. I really want to say, and I want to do something. I want to say something more than I will try my best.
Yeah.
I want to really give a good affirmation.
Yeah.
And what got to me is, the truth of the matter is I can say, you know what, for today, I promise this won't happen.
Yeah.
And that's the best I can do.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. And I know you can see right through that. And I know it's pretty weak.
Yeah.
But sometimes to sit there and say, well, I'll try better next time, just doesn't, that's just not the, I really want to commit to, and it's just practice because, I don't know about you guys, but when I first decided to start doing life differently, I wasn't really good at it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Sure.
But I got better.
Right. You try.
And like
and
you
that's,
said, Jen,
yeah.
Like you said, Jen, you have the conversation like, okay, all right, these are things that I sometimes do. And if you at least let me know, I'll maybe have a chance of doing it better. So if you're willing to help me with this, I'd really appreciate that.
Yeah.
And as time goes by, like nowadays, there's some moments now where I swear there'll be like a conflict that starts to occur, and I feel like suddenly everything goes into the matrix and I'm in slow-mo and I can see exactly what I need to say. Like everything slows down and I go, oh, usually you react this way. No, what you should do is this instead. And I go, and then everything goes into full speed. It all plays itself out, and I go, wow, that was better.
Yeah.
But it's taken a long, but it's taken a long time.
Well,
I can imagine.
The other side of that, though, too, is that I could see where, it's tough to promise someone you won't do react the same way, because to take any situation out of context, you can't promise that. Well, what if next time I behave the same way, but it's justified? Like what if you agree that I should behave that way? Like, I don't know, for sake of argument, a guy, gets angry at another guy for hitting on his girlfriend or something like that. Or he shoves him and she's like, you should have done something or whatever. I'm just throwing stupid examples out. But, then next time he does the same thing and she's like, he takes a swing and ends up in jail or something. It's like,
she goes, why'd you do that?
Yeah, and be like, well, you told me that. Yeah, I like I said, I'm making an absurd thing here, but it's just something you can't know what's going to, all the context of the next time it happens. So you really can't accurately promise you won't behave the same way, So it's very difficult. And really, if I tell you today that I'm not going to do it, as hard as that is for us, you almost have to just take someone and what they say at face value for today. Tomorrow may be different, the day after may be different, but right now I'm telling you this is who I am and this is how I'll behave, Yeah. And sometimes that's just got to be good enough.
Exactly. And some days being not perfect is just going to be good enough.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be. Because none of us are perfect.
Right.
So we're always going to make mistakes. We're always going to have to set amends. And we're always going to have to be willing to try. So with that, I think it's about time for us to start wrapping it up, guys. So I guess I'll go into my normal spiel. If you want to continue the conversation with me, you can contact me via Twitter at Jen's Crazy Life. You can contact the show at the crazylifepodcast.weebly.com. You can go there, you can get your downloads from there, as well as shoot us emails. You can also shoot us emails at thecrazylifepodcast@outlook.com. And I'm going to mix it up. Henno, if they want to continue the conversation with you, how can they reach you?
You can find me at Twitter at Ida Henno.
Nice. And anything else that you'd like to tell our listeners?
No, I'm just very grateful to be here today.
Good to know. And just so you know, everybody, this is also the same Henno that did our music, so
right,
which we're ever grateful for. Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
And Bryan, how about you? How can they reach you?
They can also reach the show on Twitter at the Crazy Life Pod. You can find me on Twitter at Stunami, and you can find the other podcast that I'm part of, Salty Language, at salty_language or at saltylanguage.com. I also want to point out that we are part of the Tangent Bound Network and the Wicked Radio Network, because I seem to have a problem remembering that each week. And then, of course, we're not trained or licensed therapists, or doctors, or anything of that profession. If you find that you feel like you're in need of help, please go seek it. Whether it's a doctor, a support group, an online forum. Don't self-diagnose, but try to find some help. Just don't be alone. I think that's that's always the thing. No matter what your situation, just know you're not alone. There's always people out there that are experiencing what you've experienced. So, just try to find yourself some help. Contact like your board of mental health or the Department of Human Services. Usually there's things in place that can help people around, or call your doctor's office. Usually they can point you in the right direction. If you're in a situation that you're feeling suicidal or having those kind of thoughts, definitely seek help. And if you can avoid it, again, please don't be alone in those moments. Reach out to somebody, whether it's the suicide hotline number or call 911 and tell them you're having a mental health emergency, and usually they'll send somebody for you. Or if you have a friend that can take you to a hospital or something, do that rather than do anything to yourself.
Absolutely. We
Hear,
need
hear.
each and every one of you guys.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, I do have one thing real quick. If
Please.
that did jump to me, is you guys have mentioned me as far as Angela's Awesome Podcast, and for anyone that has heard Bryan, what did you call it? Polishing of the. I am no longer part of Angela's
remember.
Awesome Podcast,
Yeah.
and won't be, and so that's why I didn't say anything about that show. And that's why I'm actually very grateful to have an opportunity to share on this podcast, because that was a very important part of my recovery, is the opportunity to be of service to others.
Yep.
And also talk about these things that I've learned, because they're valuable in my life, and if it can be valuable in somebody else's, I'd love the opportunity to share it with somebody.
Absolutely. And if they really like your music and they want to check you out, it's Monkey Poo Productions,
No,
correct?
Monkey Tongue.
Monkey tongue.
Yeah, Monkey
I
Tongue
apologize.
Productions on SoundCloud, right?
Yeah, on SoundCloud, if you go to Monkey Tongue Productions, you can hear the music that I've done for various podcasts. And they're actually kind of fun, because they're like 30-minute little song, 30 seconds.
I was like, wow.
30 minutes, goodness.
Like,
30
wow.
second songs, so they're kind of fun. It's like easy to digest. Like, hey, that was kind of neat.
Henno gets into like a fish groove or something on there. Like,
Yeah, thanks, Henno, for that intro for our podcast, but it wasn't quite what we had in mind.
yeah. Well, thanks to Henno for the podcast. Well, we're out of time, folks. We'll talk to you next time. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Good times.
Well, thanks, guys, for being with me tonight. And, everybody out there in the universe, claim your wins.
Yeah.